You're very welcome to our news bite. Our news will follow after we speak to the legendary Stephen McDonald. Stevie, you're very welcome.
Good man, Damian. How are you?
Not so bad, not so bad. It's great to have you on board here. And what we're going to do, folks, this evening, we know that a lot of people out there are just dying to get a little GA fix. So we thought this evening that we would chat to Stevie, and Stephen's going to give us he's going to give us his opinion on a whole lot of things in relation to the GA world. So I'm delighted to have you here, Stephen. This is the first time we've done this back on Destination Uri. We do a little
Okay,
news.
no problem.
We do a little news bite every night, and we give a sort of a short synopsis of what's happening. But that's going to follow after our interview here. So I have lots of questions to ask you, Stevie, and I know you're well prepared for it because I sent you a few wee questions earlier on to give me answer, not to catch you on the hop.
I'm not prepared though. I'm not prepared.
But listen, brilliant to have you. So the first question is, who is Stephen McDonnell? You're a married man. You're from
Who is
Clevie.
Stephen McDonald?
Yeah, who is it?
Married man from Clevie, yeah. Married man from Clevie with 4 kids. Just try living a simple life. That's who I am. I enjoy playing football. I enjoy being involved in all sports, and I'm a huge sports fan and missing it a lot at the current time. And that's just basically me.
And of course, you forgot to mention you're a Liverpool supporter. Big
I'm a
Liverpool
Liverpool
supporter.
supporter. Yeah, I am. Yeah, I try to get over 2 to 3 times a year, and I was planning on getting over for the Crystal Palace game, but unfortunately, it was cut short two games previous to that. So,
Yeah, and if
Go
they had a
ahead.
won, if they had a won the last two matches, they probably would have been champions. But it's still up in the air what's
Yeah,
going to happen, Stevie. So, from as a Liverpool supporter, and I would be Liverpool light to a certain degree, what would you do if they declared the league null and void?
I wouldn't be happy. Wouldn't be a bit happy. But listen, I know there's more important things in life than sport, but sport is so important for so many people's lives. And for me, I think there's too much at stake in terms of money. In term when you're thinking of relegation teams coming up from Division 1, Division 2, all the different divisions, the filters are all the way down, and you have to give them their fair crack at it too, and trying to gain promotion as much as the likes of Liverpool win the league as well. But I do think and I do believe that the leagues will be finished and finalised.
I think so too. But listen, hopefully that will happen. But closer to home, you're a Clevie man, a proud Clevie man,
Yeah,
and I know
yeah.
like you went to St Paul's, and you were the first All Star to come out of St Paul's. Hopefully not the last, but the first. And when you go back, when you roll the years back to 2002 and slightly before that, Stevie, because you know it's when you start thinking back, it's a long time ago. It's 18 years ago. But
Yeah.
when we think of it in terms of football, it's like only yesterday. So when you were learning your game, you come through Clevie. Who was your big influence in Clevie in your early life?
Well, I suppose what I always say to any young player going through any age group now at the minute is to respect every one of your coaches and managers. And I would always have great respect for all the managers and coaches that I played under at any age level. But there was one always stood out for me, and that was Thomas Mann.
I knew you were going.
Thomas,
I knew
yeah,
you were going to
Thomas
say
was my
that.
very first coach. So he was, and a manager, and he managed me at under 10, under 12 level. And the reason why Thomas springs to mind and keeps sticking out for me is he was the one that taught me the basics of the game. Working with both feet, left and right hand, catching the ball over your head, picking the ball up. The basics of the game that are so vitally important. And he spent time after training sessions to work with me in free taking, and it stood me for my career as well. And I always had a lot of respect. Obviously Thomas has passed away since, but I always had a lot of respect for Thomas and put a lot of my career down to I suppose the early teachings that Thomas taught me.
I know when you mentioned Tom, I knew him a lifetime, and I mean I played against him and I played under him, all the teams he managed, and every time I speak to somebody from Clevie, the first name that always comes up is Thomas Mallon, a lovely man and a
Yeah,
great legacy in Clevie, and thanks to Thomas and his wife, Mary, isn't that right? And
Mary, yeah.
yeah, so again another great GA woman as well, great people. But that's what the GA is about, Stevie. Even in the conditions that we find ourselves in now, the GAA has been fantastic in the way they're dealing with this whole situation that we find ourselves in now. I know we can't go into the fields, but we can do different things. We can solo in the garden, we can kick balls into bins, we can kick balls over houses, and we can do solos and different things.
Yeah.
And I seen you had a wee challenge with some of the Armagh boys, and there was a lot of illegal soloing going on in that. Just when we watched
Yeah,
it
I've
there.
seen you complain about that. All right.
Yeah,
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 and
yeah.
maybe I'm not up to speed with the modern day game as much as these younger players are, but certainly I thought some of the solo attempts were you wouldn't get away with it in Croke Park, put it like that. But
No.
listen, there's other ways. Even though we haven't got access to training and playing on our pitches at the minute, there's other ways that players can develop and improve on their skills. And all you ever need is a ball and a wall, and that there is a proven fact right now at this present time. We see plenty of videos being posted on a daily basis now of you, and it's great to see it, particularly young kids, young boys and girls practicing off left and right foot, and that's the biggest, I suppose, piece of advice that I could give to any kid now, particularly if they have any type of boredom or they want to improve their game. Work on your weaker side as much as possible and just get kicking the ball against the wall, and that'll certainly improve it.
Well, when you say that, Stephen, just going back to your breakthrough into the Armagh senior panel. The
Yeah.
first time that you walked into that changing room, and you had all the legendary footballers in Armagh at that time. What did it feel like when you walked through the door for the very first training session?
Well, it wasn't a great experience for me personally. You'll remember, God rest him, Chris Murphy from Camla.
I do indeed.
Yeah, Chris was the taxi driver for a number of the Armagh players at the time, and he was late in picking me up. So he was. So my very first Armagh training session, Chris arrives late. He takes me out to a training session one Sunday afternoon in Crossmaglen. So we were maybe 20 minutes late, and I see boys that I admired, Lakes of Jarlath, Burns, Kieran McGeeney, Benny Tierney, boys like that you looked up to for a number of years going to watch Armagh and Championship games. They were out training away and not knowing who I was going out onto the pitch. But when I was sitting in the dressing room getting changed, the two Brians were over the team at the time, and Brian McLitton happened to be late as well. And Bram was probably the more stubborn of the two, and he came in. He stared me out, and he says to me, "You must be the new boy," and just got up and walked out. So he made me feel very little at that particular time. But listen, I went in, done the training session, and once you get involved in any team environment, the boys don't be too long on welcoming you in.
And what age were you, Stevie, when you came into the senior team?
I was just out of minor. I was 19 at that particular time, so it was.
Okay,
So
so
I was. I always say I came at a very fortunate time for Armagh. I came in January '99, and within 7 months, I had an Ulster title in my pocket. And just before I came in, Neil Smith and Martin McQuillan had retired, who had soldiered for Armagh for maybe 15, 16 years each, and never won an Ulster title, never got the opportunity to play in an Ulster final, and you know deserved those type of awards and those type of days out, but never got that far. And I came in within 7 months. I was fortunate enough that the team was good and starting to move forward as such, and we were successful.
there's no question. And when you look at the 1999 Ulster final against Down, I mean, I suppose that was the big one for Armagh coming through. They needed to beat Down. And when you look at the Down team, they had some fabulous players there too. You had Mickey Linton, James McCartan, you had Greg McCartan, all them, legendary Down names. But Armagh,
Yeah,
that was some day. And McConville, I think he scored 2-6 or 2-7 that day.
2-7 he scored. Yeah, 2-7 that day. I think Armagh's full forward line that day the two-man full forward line that played that day of Jamer and Oshin absolutely terrorised the down full back line, and it was pointed out before that game that Down had weaknesses in that area, so why not utilise and play to your strengths? And it was probably our strongest line against our weakest line, and we used it to good effect, and the boys terrorised them, and that was it. And often enough before that, it was the Down teams terrorising Armagh, so it was good to get one over them.
It was, and then of course when we went on into the All Ireland series, I mean, I'm going back to I can't remember if Galway was the 1999 or 2000. Uh,
No, Galway was actually 2001.
2001, that we should have
Yeah.
had them in that one, and that game sticks in my mind for a very very simple reason. I had a brand new leather jacket, and I left it in Crow Park in bad form after getting beat. So
But
that
you
was
you
the
were back the following year in a big outfit as well.
Oh,
Don't
I
worry.
did. I know, and that's well, that's another story. We'll talk about that in a minute. But Stevie, I suppose going back to thinking of coming in, like, and I can imagine little Chris Murphy driving you up to Cross McLean and being late, and then Michael Linton, and I know Michael Linton, and yes, you can be rest assured, Michael Linton can be abrupt, but that's just his manner. But a die-hard
Yeah.
Armagh man, probably the first goalkeeper ever to be able to pinpoint a kick out, because his kick outs were never brilliantly long, but he could always pick a man. And
Mhm.
he was one of the guys who first started that. Nobody knew what he was doing, but he knew exactly. And he was pinging balls out to half backs and half forwards before people even knew what that was about. And that was Carl
Exactly,
Brown.
and maybe having Brian as a manager benefited likes of Benny Tierney as well, because Benny was an exceptionally good goalkeeper, shot stopper, but his kickouts were never the longest either. But he was always able to pinpoint a pass to a teammate, and we always had great confidence in the likes of Benny. But I would say some of that experience of Brian filtered down through to Benny as well.
Well, when you mention Benny Tierney, there's lots of things comes to mind about Benny. He was the character of the team. He was always wearing a different jersey every match, but he also was a brilliant, as you said, a brilliant shot stopper and very very astute. And his movement ended up with the goal being scored by McConville in the 2002 All Ireland final.
Yeah, Benny was a very, very important member of our squad. First and foremost, yes, he was the character in the dressing room, so he was, but he was also the light-hearted character on the way to games when sometimes you can be uptight and tense and too nervous. But Benny always lightened the mood, so he did, and that was a good relaxer for all of the team. But he also knew when the time was to shut up and focus on his own game and to get his own preparations right as well. But Benny was an excellent goalkeeper. I don't think I've played alongside any other goalkeeper in my full career that was as vocal as Benny. Somebody saying the right things to his defence, to the players in front of him, making them aware of where the danger was. And for a man like Benny, Benny was never the most athletic goalkeeper in the world, and he knows that himself. But he could get off his line at serious pace and really close the space down for any forward coming through.
Oh, look, there's no doubt. And here, when we talk about, what we'll do is we'll look from Galway in 2001, and that was very disappointing from an Armagh point of view. And then, obviously, with Joe Kernan coming in 2002, things started to change, and you started to get a little bit of momentum. And I know, going back and thinking back to those days, you were probably the first Gaelic team to head to Sonny Climes for a training week. You took off
Yeah,
to La Manga.
over to La Manga, yeah. Well, under the two brands, we had been knocking on the door for 3 years, 99, 2000, 2001. We were beat by all the eventual All Ireland winners and unluckily beat in all three games. So we knew we weren't a million miles away. Joe came in and brought a freshness about the thing. And Joe always thought a wee bit differently and always tried to plan ahead and make things a wee bit more interesting for us. And as part of Joe's plan, it was to take us away to a 5-day training camp in La Manga in Spain. At that particular time, people don't realise the work and effort that we put in over there. We trained twice a day. We had video sessions every night. We really analysed all of our opponents in great detail, and it was certainly money well spent. But we didn't have any beer whatsoever, and people always say there's no way he's been over there and had no beer. But that was the fact. That was how, I suppose, focused we were as a team. Anyway, we would have felt that it was a waste of our time and over there we were going to be on the beer. But Joe's seen it as an opportunity for us to prepare for Tyrone. We were going in to play at Tyrone. They were the National League champions. They'd won a couple of under 21 All Ireland, so they had a crop of young players coming through that were very much fancied to beat us in the first round in 2002. So we had a great opportunity over in the Manga to prepare fully for them, and I suppose to really identify where their key strengths were and their weaknesses as well. And we were ridiculed for going to La Manga. I remember walking up through the hill in Clonus going to do a warm up, and the Throne supporters were asking where the town was and whatever. And but we drew at them that day and we beat them in the replay. And I think after beating them in the replay, the La Manga trip was certainly well worth it.
And of course, after the replay, I mean, I missed the replay because I was in Spain, and I remember ringing home to find out how the game was going on. But sure, I forgot Spain was either an hour or 2 hours ahead, and I was saying the match isn't
Right,
on
okay.
yet. So I didn't do a bit of good that whole afternoon. I couldn't get the match anywhere. It's not like now where you can slip on to any internet
You,
station and get it, But
yeah,
again, the replay, that was a great result for Armagh and getting the goals. And then, of course, when we moved on into the championship proper, and we won the Ulster, and
yeah,
then we moved on into, like, I suppose, the dreaded back door that came in. That was that was a scourge for us because, well, it was and it
yeah.
wasn't, because in the following year we needed it. But going back to 2002, Stevie, when we went through Ulster, Armagh got better and better and better. In relation to the guys in the camp, what was the thinking in the team that time? Did you think that you were going to come on, win the Ulster, and have another tilt at the All Ireland?
Well, from a player's point of view, we had won two out of the previous three Ulsters. So it was a case of, okay, let's try to win the Ulster title. And if we can do that, then we have the experience of going to prepare for the All Ireland stage a wee bit more so than what we had previously. And the Ulster was the first and foremost goal for that particular year. We couldn't look that far ahead. There was that many good teams around that particular time. Dublin were showing good form. Kerry were very good. Tyrone were very good. Derry were very good. So there was too many good teams around to be looking too far ahead of ourselves. So, definitely after we overcame Tyrone, then Ulster was a realistic goal for us, and we focused our intentions on it. And once we come out of Ulster, I think we gained a serious amount of confidence from once again proving that we were the best in the province, and that allowed us to go on and perform against the bigger and better teams in the country.
And look, going back to I suppose if we look at the Sligo game, the one in Croke Park, where we were
Yeah,
cruising, and then we were lucky to get the draw, and then the replay in
yeah,
Navan. Strange place to take it, funny enough. But the
yeah.
the end of it too again was shrouded in controversy when the Sligo manager was complaining that John McEntee fouled one of their players on the ball, but obviously he didn't, and the game ended up that we won it. But again, that was a tough. Them was two tough games, Stevie.
Very, very tough games. And you're right in what you said. We got off to a great start against Sligo. I think we went a number of points ahead, but Sligo kept plugging away, and they had the opportunity to, I think it was the final score of the game, to maybe go for a goal, and Darren McGarty opted to fist the ball over the bar and take the draw. And I think I always say to myself, if I was in that position, I think I would have really pulled the trigger to go and at least have a shot at goal. But thankfully, from an Armagh point of view and from Armagh's history, he fisted the ball over the bar and the game went to a replay, and it was taken in Navan. Yeah, and yes, it was a very strange place, but for some particular reason, I played particularly well that day and got man of the match, so I was happy enough that it was in Navan.
And again, Stevie, you're only 23 at that time.
I
Is
was
that right?
23, yeah. So
Yeah.
23, I was the third youngest on the team. There was Clarkey come in, a seriously young lad at that particular time. He was 19. And Joe seen something in Clarkey. Clarkey was showing no form. We knew he had talent and he had great ability, but he was showing no real form in terms of the lead up to the championship campaign that year. And Joe seen something in him and put him in. And he really clicked into gear, and he really, I suppose, gelled the forward line together as well. But he was 19. Paddy McKeever was just a couple of months younger than me, and then I was 23. So we were the three youngest in the team, and then maybe after that there was 26, 27-year-olds.
And I suppose when you think of it, when you look at the All Ireland final, how Ronan Clark played Seamus Moynihan, a 19-year-old, probably one of the greatest Kerry defenders ever, and he made him
Yeah.
look a very ordinary player.
Yeah, well, a lot of people tend to forget in the semi-final, he also got marked by Paddy Christie. And for me, at that particular time, Paddy Christie and Seamus Moynihan were the two best fullbacks in the country. And Ronan Clark took both of them and proved his worth on the national stage, and proved how crucial he was to Armagh's success. And, for such a young fella, he went in with no baggage. and he probably didn't even know who Paddy Christie and James Moynihan were,
He
and he went
probably
in and
didn't,
just played his normal game. He
Yeah, he
probably
probably
didn't,
didn't.
and he went in, he played his normal game, and he proved his worth to us, and he was such a class competitor and class operator that we had total trust that he would be able to do a job in those boys.
And absolutely did. And Stevie, going back to the Dublin game, and I know when the draw came out, I know the Armagh boys were bouncing because they wanted to play at Dublin in Croke Park, and I know there was this sort of this thing about Armagh having never won an All Ireland semi final in 21 or 22 or 23 years, which was right because they hadn't played in one, so it didn't
Yeah.
make any difference. But that game was a
Mm-hmm.
very special game, and I think you scored one of your best scores ever in that game. Is that right?
Yeah, I would say, I'm always asked, what's your best score? But two of my top five were in that game, and I only scored 2 points. But in the lead up to that game, that particular team had never won in Croke Park in a championship game. So there was pressure on us, but there was also a lot of pressure in Dublin because they had been, I suppose, reinvigorated under Tommy Lance, and they'd won the Leinster Championship, and they'd been scoring goals for fun. Ray Cosgrove was a man on a mission that particular year, and we went in. There's no better place or team to play than Croke Park and Dublin with a packed house, and we went in, and it was my favourite game of all time to be involved in. More so than what the All Ireland finals were. Um, what I always say about the Dubs is they always bring a special atmosphere, more like a carnival atmosphere to the occasion. The Hill 16 crowd is always a special vibe coming from it onto the pitch as well. And um, both teams were very, very evenly matched. It was point for point for most of the game. We got the goal. It was a forced enough goal, I suppose, from Paddy McKeever. And literally a few minutes later, Kieran Beale went up and scored probably the goal of the season off the crossbar and in. And it just showed there was very little between the teams. But, we relied heavily on Oisin McConville for crucial scores over the years, and he came good at the end of that particular game again. I remember a high ball went in, and he took on Paul Casey down the end line and fisted the ball over the bar, and that put us 1 point up with a couple of minutes left. And I suppose Dublin had been the team going in the lead throughout the game. While it was point for point, Dublin were the team that kept going in the lead, and we just took the lead at the right time. And then they were awarded that free at the end. And I suppose I remember being said in the 1990 World Cup, a nation holds its breath. Well, all of Armagh held its breath that time when Ray Cosgrove was kicking the free. And
I can tell you a good story about that one, Stevie.
yeah,
And I'm absolutely convinced. And I've looked at it. I've looked at it this week about 6 times. It was never a free. Absolutely never a free. But I remember I was in the Lower Hogan, and there was a whole crowd of us sitting there. And I turned around to Jerry Flynn, and Jerry Flynn was shaking his head, and his hands on his head, and he was going, "Oh, jeepers, jeepers, jeepers!" I says, "Jerry, he's going to miss." I says, "I can feel it. I can absolutely feel it." And I was the only one standing there, and I was standing going ballistic. And then, of course, he hit the ball, and you can see the ball just curling round and
yeah.
coming off the post and coming down. And I think was it Francie caught the ball when it come off the crossbar or
I
off the
think
post?
I think Justy or Francie maybe got the
Francie maybe,
ball. And,
yeah, Francie got the ball at the end. But I knew,
yeah,
there was something in me that I knew, and everybody looked at me as if to say, "How did you know that?" But I just felt in my bones that was going to happen. But what a result, and what an atmosphere after that. And then
yeah.
rolling into the All Ireland final with the big night in I suppose, the City West. But the day of the All Ireland final, Stevie, how did you cope with the pressure? How do you cope with the
Yeah,
pressure?
I'll be brutally honest. I can't really remember too much. I suppose we were fortunate enough that Joe had a good background team assembled. So he brought in Hugh Campbell and Des Jennings as team psychologists as well, and they had done a lot of work in the background and keeping a calm but focused presence at all times, and just keeping us in, I suppose, in a good way of thinking going into the match, and not overthinking the game, and that can happen a lot with particularly young players going into a game, that they can maybe overthink the occasion and not concentrate as much on the game. And we went in a calm state of mind as much as we possibly could. For us, it was we had knocked on the door a few years previous. We had gone to All Ireland semi-finals. We played in front of 83,000 people in Croke Park. So we knew that final. We knew that it was going to be electric. But we'd come off the back of probably the most electric atmosphere that you're ever going to experience when you play Dublin in Croke Park. So, and we had beat them, so we come out with a win. So we knew that we could go and do the same. We could get the performance and the result, and that's what we done. We just went in and got a good start in the game, and that was important as well. We got a couple of early scores. Kerry had their spell in the first half, which probably kicked them on a wee bit, maybe went 3-4 points ahead. But we weathered the storm and came back strong again second half when we had to.
There's no doubt. And then going back to the night before, the letter, the letter from Muhammad Ali. I mean,
Mm.
was that real or was that a ploy?
Yeah,
Or
no, it was real, and I actually listened to a podcast recently with Q Campbell. It was Q's idea to try to get in touch with the Ali Foundation, which he managed to do so, and it was real. We had, I suppose, in preparation for the whole campaign, we done a lot of sports psychology work, and a lot of that was watching Muhammad Ali videos on how he overcame, defeats in his own career to come back and win, and things he got there, and he played a huge role in the success of that particular team. So he did, and it was the morning of the All Ireland final. We woke up and underneath, pushed through the onto the floor of each player's room was an envelope with our names on it, and we opened up the envelope and it was the letter. So it was, and
thinking back, Stevie, thinking back and opening that letter,
yeah,
how did you feel?
it's hard to know. I think it was really after the game that you thought more about the letter, because we read the letter at that particular time. I don't think we mentioned it much before the game, but it was in the back of our heads that we received it all right. But I think most of our focus was on preparing ourselves for the game and keeping as calm as we possibly could, because you are up from quite early in the morning. You're up from maybe 8 or 8:30 in the morning, and the game doesn't throw into 3:30. So there's a long enough day ahead of you, to try to keep your focus on something as big as an All Ireland final. So, we didn't want to be having any distractions. We wanted to keep our mind on what we were there to do, and that was to win the game as much as we possibly could.
And of course, you scored the first score and you scored the last score in the All Ireland final of 2002.
Yeah, I got very lucky.
Well, I know at half time, and after the penalty being missed, I remember sitting in the back of the canal end, and I was nearly in tears, and I was shaking my head, not again, because I remember the National League defeat by Down and then by Monaghan, and come back and thinking of all them days and all the great people that had come before, and we were never going to get over the line, and Morrison scored the point, and Daisy Campbell from Mullaban, he was sitting beside me, and he hit me a shoulder, and he says, "Look," he says, "we got the last point. We're
Yeah,
okay. We're okay." And then, of course, Armagh were brilliant in the second half. They just come out like a whirlwind, and they actually played Kerry off the field in the second half.
yeah, and believe it or not, I haven't actually watched the game ever. For the weeks afterwards, you're invited to different places and you've seen glimpses of the game, but I've never actually sat down to watch the game again. And somebody tweeted me last week and said, "You must be annoyed with Marsden and O'Rourke for missing that opportunity that you put them through." And I forgot about a pass that I played to Jim Marsden, and he played the ball into Aidan O'Rourke, and they fumbled the ball between them. They try to go for the goal. And I actually forgot all about it. But there's elements of the game that sticks out, and there's elements of the game that you forget about, and it's only until I suppose I probably will sit down in the next couple of weeks and watch the game again that my memory will be brought back to life
Oh,
again. But you mentioned about the first and the last point. The reality is, Damian, I wore number 13, and for me, if you were number 10 to 15 in any team, your first and primary responsibility is to score for the team. And my responsibility for that team, my main responsibility for that team, was to score. So I done my job. I was there to score, and I had to get on the scoreboard. So whether that was the first, the third, the fourth, it didn't make a difference. I had to score for the team, and that was it.
and you absolutely did. And I suppose, Stevie, thinking of how football has evolved since then to now to the blanket defence, and I know you're doing a bit of management and different things. So would you prefer to be playing back then, or what about now? How would you cope with the blanket defence now?
Well, I
Or the
think
zonal
it's
defending, the zonal
yeah,
defending.
zonal defense. I think the game is starting to turn the corner again to go more kicking the ball and attack minded as well. I did play in numerous campaigns where I was being double marked and there was sweepers in play. So I seen that towards the I suppose latter stage of my career that that was the way the game was going. Probably around 2012, 13, 14, it was ugly to witness. So it got really ugly in terms of ultra defensive game plans. But certainly the game has developed again and is becoming more attack minded. But yeah, you asked the question, how would you have coped? As a forward, you want to put yourself, well, as a footballer, you want to challenge yourself as much as possible. And whether that's against a man that's marking you directly or against two or three men playing only in front of you, you have to try to challenge yourself and get yourself into an area where you can hurt and penetrate your opponent. And for me, it's all about a forward's ability to create movement and get himself into an area where he can actually kick a score from. And I would like that challenge. I don't know if I would excel in it, but I would certainly like the challenge of it.
Well, looking at some of the scores that you were hitting during them days, you were hitting them from 40, 50 yards over the bar without any bother. I would say, Stevie, you would be grand. There's no question. But listen, going back then, so 2002, we won the All Ireland. And then next year, the first round of the championship against Monaghan in Clonus. That was an horrendous game
Yeah.
from an Armagh point of view.
One that, yeah, we'd love to just forget about
Airbrush,
totally. But
airbrush.
yeah, but in reality, I think it was a game that focused the players' minds again and got us back on the road to, gearing ourselves towards where we want to go. And that was winning second All Ireland. We went to an All Ireland final. We did manage to win the second All Ireland, but we we got that focus back into our way of thinking, and we went on a long road again, and we, I suppose, give a lot of good days out to a lot of Armagh supporters after that. But the one thing that sticks out in my, well, there's two things that stick out in my mind that particular day. One was I had an opportunity in the first half where I think it was Barry O'Hagan flicked the ball onto me or fisted the ball onto me, and I was in a one-on-one situation with the goalkeeper, the Monaghan goalkeeper, and I rounded him. I took the ball around him and I kicked the ball against the post. Totally open net, kicked the ball against the post, and that would have, I think, at that time put us 4 or 5 points up. And you would imagine, as All Ireland champions, we would have kicked on and won the game. The other thing that sticks out in my mind was Monaghan got momentum in the second half, kicked on and won the game. Paul Finlay was majestic that day in kicking balls over the bar, but Raymond Ronan, one of the Monaghan players, and this was used as motivation from our point of view, from the team's point of view, for the remainder of that year. The vision of Raymond Ronan swinging on the fences afterwards, swinging his jersey around, and that was a memory that lasted that campaign from a player's point of view, because we didn't want to experience that again.
Yeah, I remember that. I remember that when you were talking about it, and I can actually see him standing on the second bit of wire and swinging the jersey round, But anyway,
Yeah.
it happened, and then of course we marched on. We went round. We had some great trips down to Waterford. I remember down in Waterford, and then of course we got the All Ireland final in Tyrone, and then of course the sending off, Stevie. The sending off was an awful decision in relation to how the game panned out with Morrison
Yeah.
getting red carded.
Yeah, well, listen, we all know it was an awful decision. We knew it at the time, and Jamer got his decision overturned afterwards, but that was no good to us. But in reality, and whether Jamer got sent off or not, we don't know if we're going to kick on to win that game. I don't think we played our particularly best in that particular match. I think we were too uptight. We didn't play with the vigor and the suave that we had in games before that, and I think we piled too much pressure on ourselves to go and win two in a row instead of focusing and playing with more freedom. We were the current All Ireland champions. Tyrone had never won an All Ireland, so we should have been the team playing with more, I suppose, freedom than what they were. But it was a result that went against us. But in reality, we didn't deserve it because we didn't play to our best.
Yeah, and of course then we had the Armagh Tyrone rivalry right through the noughties, and of course sledging became a big thing, Stevie, in games in the early part of the century.
Yeah,
How did you handle the sledging? Because
don't listen to it.
when I played football, I mean it didn't happen because of if somebody was sledging when I was playing football, you just would have turned around and just emptied them, and that would have been it.
Yeah,
You
well,
know?
listen, sledging. The reason why sledging is done is to test the character of the player, that whatever's being said is being said to them, and see how they react to it. And you can either lash out, or you can take it in the chin and use it as motivation to get the ball and kick it over the bar.
Yeah, I
And
remember. I remember
go on.
Muggsy talking about Francie Belia, and he says he was trying to wind Francie up, and he said something to Francie, and Francie turned
Yeah,
around and says, "You're not bad looking yourself, hey."
yeah.
And Muggsy decided,
Well,
I
I
think I'll
think
maybe
Muggsy
stay off
said.
this.
Yeah, I think Muggsy said to Francie, "You're awful good looking," and Francie turned around and just gave him his good bag. He says, "You're not bad looking yourself," and that was the end of that there. But um, I remember going into the All Ireland semi final in 2005, and Ryan McManaman came to pick me up. And when you see Ryan coming to pick you up, you expect all type of abuse being thrown at you. But and Ryan marked me on numerous occasions after that as well. And never once did he open his mouth to me. Never once. And I was baffled by that there. I was wondering, what was the story here? Why did he not say nothing to me? But later on that year at the All Star Awards, we were having a beer and I asked him the question, and he says, some players will take it and some players won't. And he said, he basically said to me, he would have been wasting his own time and energy by sledging me because I would have just played a normal game. And that's the reality. I felt that I had a strong enough character to cope with whatever was being said and done, and I was able to respond by kicking the ball over the bar.
Brilliant. No, and that's what it's all about. And then Stevie, going back to the international rules, the
Mm-hmm.
games again, the Australians, and I suppose maybe 2010 you captained the team, and
Yeah,
that was probably one of the greatest series ever. So where do you
yeah.
stand? Where do you stand in the international rules?
I'm a big fan. Over the last number of years, there's no denying that it has lost its appeal. I think players love playing it. Even the Australian players, a lot of people say that they never send their best players, but certainly in the noughties when I was involved with it, they were sending their best players, and it was always great competition and great battles on the pitch. I would love to see it, given another fair chance in the next couple of years. Probably give it a few years, try to reignite some spark there. But I do think that there is some type of future. At the end of the day, as amateur players, to get the opportunity to represent your country and play with players from maybe Galway or Kerry or Cork or Dublin is a massive, massive thing for a GAA player to say, be able to say. And thankfully, I was involved with many international rules teams that I got that opportunity to do so. And each and every time that I got a chance to pull on the Irish jersey, I wore it with great pride and great honour. And when you're not involved in the game, and the game itself has many critics, but all I would say is, if those critics had the opportunity to be involved, I could guarantee them they would all jump at the chance.
Oh, I would think you're right. And we've had some glorious, glorious games, and we have had some wonderful. Well, you would probably be too young to remember the very first game that was played in the athletic grounds.
Yeah,
There was the big guy, the big boy, the moustache, the way big moustache, and like it was
the
like
Big Dip, the Big Dipper.
the Big Dipper is right, yeah. And I mean, it was a slaughter match,
Yeah,
and I was at that, and I thought this was just unbelievable. Like, and our boys was
yeah.
well fit to stand up for it. But thank God, the whole thing has changed. But going back to, I suppose, yourself, who would you say was your toughest ever defender that marked you?
I listen. I suppose I was marked by a lot of tough defenders. Some of the probably most high profile names that you come up against. Mark O'Shea being one, Ryan McManaman, Conor Gormley, boys they got there that are known the length and breadth of the country. But the one player for me that made me the player that I am is Enna McNulty. And simply because Enda marked me night after night at training. He battered the absolute crap clean out of me, but I gave as good back to him. And he prepared me like no other defender was ever going to prepare me for championship games. And I knew going into a game against Tyrone or Dublin or Mayo, whoever it may be, that whoever's going to be marking me today is not going to abuse me as much as what Enda has abused me in training. And certainly he was as tough as what there was. And for me, Enda was the best man-to-man marker in the game at that particular time.
Well, that's a surprise now. That's a surprise. And of course, Enda was a fabulous footballer. But going back to just thinking back to that team, Stevie, they only won one All Ireland. I think they could have had two or three. I think they
Yeah.
underachieved.
Yes, we could have had two or three, absolutely. But before we won one, we never won one.
Yeah,
You know, and that particular team had 10 years of success at provincial and national level. We won 7 Ulster titles where we hadn't won one in 18 years. We won an All Ireland. We had got to a second All Ireland final. I think we got to 6 All Ireland semi-finals throughout that time. We had won the first ever National Football League for Armagh. So, you know, myself and Kieran McGeeney managed to win Footballer of the Year. We won multiple All-Stars as a squad, you know, so there was a huge amount of success in that 10-year period for that particular Armagh team. And to say it underachieved, I would say there was definitely another All-Ireland in the team. I think the back door came in at the wrong time for that team. You said, yes, we used it to great effect in 2003, and absolutely we did, yes. But I would still say if the back door wasn't in, we could have had greater opportunities to go on and win the All Ireland. But no excuses. We've got one All Ireland, and I'll be eternally grateful for winning that All Ireland. But I don't believe that we really, really underachieved. I think, you know, from an Armagh point of view, from a county that has never really set the world alight, you know, we were a very successful team during that period.
and of course you have to mention the supporters during that time, Stevie.
Absolutely, you know, we had the best supporters in the country, bar none, and we still do. We still do have those supporters, and those supporters are just waiting to, I suppose, get back to an Ulster final to reignite that spark again. But you know, Armagh supporters are a special group of players, a group of people, so they are, and you know, a lot of our success was certainly down to the support and the following that we had at that particular time.
And then again, looking at Armagh, how they're going now under McGeeney and Jim McCurry,
Yeah,
Armagh seem to be going in the right direction.
there's a great amount of potential in Armagh. You know, it's been said before, but I think the team is becoming more mature. So they are. They're getting to an age now, even though we've got a lot of young players like Charlie Ogan and Rian O'Neill coming through. Players who have experienced their first full season of championship behind them, and they will only go into the next campaign as better players. But the likes of Rory Grugan, Brendan Donny still hanging on. People like that there, Oisin O'Neill, you know, there's quality in that team. And Stephen Campbell, I think he's a special forward, so he is. And there's certainly a lot of quality in that team. And if they can get a wee bit of luck, like every successful team needs to get, and a run of championship games, I think they can really hurt teams.
Brilliant, Stevie. I'm going to finish. I sent you 20 questions, so I'm going to finish in the questions. And
I
listen,
mightn't answer all 20.
don't have to. Don't have. You can just say pass if you want to. In relation to your whole talk here tonight, fabulous, absolutely brilliant. A lovely insight into that lovely time in Armagh when the team was going well and the great games that we had. So to finish, I have 20 questions. So
Okay.
I know you're a great man on Twitter and Facebook and all that. So who's the best person you follow on Twitter?
That was the first question that I read out, and I was trying to think who the hell do I say here, but I think one person stands out to me at the minute, and I always get a good laugh looking at his sketches. Is Conor Moore Connor's sketches,
Yeah, good
and
one.
you know he's brilliant. He does some brilliant impressions, so he does, and you know I always get a good laugh looking at his tweets.
Good stuff. And question two, what was your happiest memory in sport?
In sport, just being involved, you know, meeting all the teammates, friends. Obviously, we've had the successes are always at the top of anyone's mind, but certainly just having that camaraderie with your teammates and all is a special feeling.
Any regrets in your sporting career?
Getting blocked.
Oh yeah,
And that's not getting drunk.
of
Getting
course,
blocked in the
of course.
All-Ireland final.
Yeah, yeah. And again, there was luck on that because I think if you look at the pictures, he had his eyes closed when he went down on it. And again, as you said, it's not even inches. It's not even inches. It's
No.
only millimeters. And yes, of course, we're talking about the block in the 2003 All Ireland. So okay, that's no, that's a regret. And I suppose, what was your idea of the best team bonding with your team? What was the Mango? Maybe was one, was it?
Lamanga was obviously a different type. It brought the team together in terms of the closeness. The couple of days being spent away with each other, being able to quiz your teammate on their own strengths and weaknesses as much as identifying your opponents. But the crack of being able to go and have tough, intense training sessions abroad, always was something special to me as well. Feeling that you're very much part of a very professional setup was always good as well. But listen, after successes and the defeats as well, when you're knocked out of championships, you always have, I suppose, a lash in the beer, and they're always good special times as well.
And tell me this: do you think Gaelic football has got too tactical?
It has, but as I said earlier, I think it's becoming more of a kick and attack game once again, and I think it's better viewing at the minute. The national leagues over the last couple of seasons have been very entertaining, very high scoring games of football. So I think given time and managers and coaches are starting to realise this once again, that at the end of the day, they'll never be able to win games if they don't get the ball into dangerous forwards, and that's the way the game is now going again.
Tell me this: what part of training or games did you dislike most? And the McNulty marking you.
No, I love that. I didn't really dislike it. I just hated probably December, January training sessions, pre-season like that there. I hated it simply because it was a hard slog. We always had good crack doing it, but you always, when you're leaving the field, even on a snowy night, whatever it may be, you always had a great sense of satisfaction. But I wouldn't have been. I wouldn't say that I disliked training. When I was training with the county or with the club team, we always had, I suppose, somewhere that you wanted to gear yourself towards a goal to get to, and so I enjoyed it from that point of view.
How would you like to be remembered as a Gaelic footballer?
As a Gaelic footballer, as somebody who always played his hardest and tried his best.
That's good enough for me. Tell me this now: how would you describe yourself in three words?
We'll move on from that one.
Have you a motto you live by?
No, just enjoy every day. Live life to the full. No matter what age you think you are, things can be taken away from you in a flash. So just live life to the full.
What's the best advice you could give to any young player?
Work on both sides. Work left and right foot, left and right hand. It's the most difficult thing from any opponent's point of view, not knowing what side you're going to turn. So if you can work on both sides and try to get both working at the same level, then you'll be twice as good a player.
If you were to ask three celebrities to go to a party with you, who would they be?
Three celebrities. I would have, been a Liverpool fan, I would invite Jurgen Klopp.
Good.
I think he'd be great crack, the life and soul of the party. I would have Robert De Niro. He's one of my favourite actors, and I would take Conor Moore to play both of them.
That would be good fun. Tell me this: who was the worst trainer in the whole Armagh campaign that you were involved? Or is it fair? Would it be fair?
There was a lot of boys. To be fair, didn't miss a whole pile of training. But there was one or two players, I'll not name them. They always seem to look after themselves that extra wee bit more the week leading up to a game, and rested themselves as such and always miraculously recovered for the game. So, but I'll not name them. They'll know who they are.
I don't know who they are. Well, listen, Stevie, Stevie from Kalevi, and Kalevi's very close to your heart. I know that, and
Absolutely.
I know you're fan of Joe. I remember Joe playing in an intermediate final in Carrickcruppen, and he had a monkey hat on him, and he was the only
It
man
doesn't
that ever.
surprise me.
He played the game with a monkey hat on him. I don't know if he probably remember that, but listen, much appreciated you coming on here. It's brilliant to be able to talk to you. I think this where we do this is great. You can sit in your house and we can do it, and the quality is good, and the information is brilliant, and of course the honesty of yourself and coming on and doing this is much appreciated. And us and Destination Uri would like to thank you for that. And maybe
No
we can
problem.
do this sometime later on. I know you're doing a little bit of management at the minute, isn't that right? Down in is it
I'm
Clonot?
Clonot. I'm managing Clonot in Tyrone, just across the border, so not too far from Mary. So people say you're in the Tyrone, but literally it's only 45 minutes away, so it's not too bad. But unfortunately, things have been cut short there at the minute so far. But you know, in the first couple of months that I've been with those lads, they seem to be a very committed and good group of lads. So I was enjoying it anyway.
Well, listen, Stevie, and of course, you better tell us what you work at before you go, because I know you have your own business.
Yeah, well, I have a company called Site Crew, where we provide professional services, professional staff to construction companies mainly, but not only construction companies, warehousing and production as well, throughout Ireland. So, staff such as engineers, surveyors, etc. So, I'm sure at the other end of this COVID-19, we like others will experience problems, but hopefully we'll all come out the right end of it.
And of course, if anybody's looking a job or something, give you a ring or give you an email.
Absolutely, we're always looking for good professional quality people. So we are. So the more professional people we have, the better opportunity we have in presenting them to our clients.
Stephen McDonnell, it has been an absolute pleasure talking to you here this evening on Destination Yuri's News Bite. Believe it or not, it's not news, but news is coming later. So, Stevie, listen, thanks a million. Much appreciated. And when this is over, we'll meet again, hopefully, maybe in Clare for the last game in the
Hopefully,
league if we get there, and hopefully who knows, we could be come back to Division 1. And just before you finish, thinking back to the game when we beat Mayo in the All Ireland National League, sorry, in the National League final, do you remember the game that was to be played in Dr. Hyde Park, and we went over there in the rain and
that's right. Yeah,
the game was cancelled? It was the
cancel.
longest,
Yeah,
it was my longest trip to get a bag of chips, I can tell you. And then, of
yeah,
course, the game then was fixed for Crow Park, and Armagh was absolutely fantastic in Crow Park, and Mayo had some great players at that time.
yeah.
Probably one of the greatest players in my book ever to come out of Mayo was Kieran McDonald.
Kieran McDonald, yeah, and Kieran McGeeney man marked him that day and didn't give him a kick of the ball, and that just shows the quality of the player that Kieran McGeeney was. Kieran McDonald was on top of his game, but Kieran McGeeney didn't give him an inch that day. So, and because of that, we earmarked Kieran McDonald as being the main threat, and it was because of that battle that we were able to kick on and beat Mayo in the semi final and kick on and win the National League.
Yeah. Listen, Stevie, thanks a million. Much appreciated. And
No problem.
as they say, we'll maybe do this all again some other time. So
No
thanks a
problem.
million.
Thanks very
Much
much.
appreciated. Thanks a million. And now that
Take care.
Stevie, thanks a million. So I think what we're going to do now, according to what Cahill's telling me, we're going to do the news. So I'm going to read our news. So if you just bear with me for 1 second, we'll give you the news. So again, my name is Damian McCullough, and you're very welcome to Destination Yuri's News Bite. A little bit late this evening. The coronavirus update. The UK lockdown is to remain in place for the next 3 weeks. That has been stated by Dominic Raab. The Northern Ireland, in midst of the biggest public health crisis, Robert Swan opens the press briefing by saying it is deeply distressing day after day after a further 18 people died of coronavirus last night. He says Northern Ireland is in the midst of the biggest public health crisis in its history. And he also expressed sympathy to those families who lost loved ones. Testing in care homes should be introduced immediately, says Unison, and that's the union, which represents staff in care homes, and they've called for COVID-19 testing to be introduced on all care homes immediately. 158 people have now died in Northern Ireland, while 444 have died in the Republic. 861 died in England in the last 24 hours. Scotland death toll now stands at over 1,000. Wales death toll stands at 495. The release of official figures on coronavirus related deaths in Northern Ireland is set to change later this week amid concerns about how care home deaths are being reported. It comes as the number of people who have died in hospital following a diagnosis of COVID has risen. This is in England to 13,729, and that was an increase of 861. So that was the biggest rise in 5 days in England. The Chief Medical Officer says Northern Ireland is playing its part in the UK-wide clinical trials to find an effective drug treatments for COVID-19. Dr. Michael McBride told the Daily Briefing at Stormont that there's much that we still don't yet know about the illness. He said, though the international collaboration that's going on between our health professionals right across the world through science and academia, they are learning more and more about this virus every day. Other news. GCSE, AS and A-level grades in Northern Ireland will be awarded as predicted grades. Now, we know that that's not great for our students that worked very hard this year, but unfortunately, due to the lockdown and what's happening at the minute, it's going to go to predicted grades. So hopefully, people will get what they were looking for. And of course, our death notices will follow and can be seen at the bottom of our screen. I would like to take this opportunity to thank everybody for tuning in and listening to Stevie and our news bite. And of course, if you have a news story you want followed or you have any information, send it on to us and we'll bring it up here on our news bite daily. So thanks a million and good night.